This is why usually in the comments I add a little bit how to look your best, light, sound, making sure that you're in a quiet place. But I do fail of communicating that over and over again. But it's the same thing. But repeating patterns, let's put that aside. Astronauts. Let's talk about astronauts. Bill.
Yeah.
Astronauts?
Love astronauts. I've always been kind of a space aficionado, like literally 20 miles down the street from me is Goddard Space Flight Center. It's funny, my dad just went like last week. He was telling me about how great it was. And, this year, the U.S. was supposed to do the Artemis mission back to space, back to the moon, a manned landing on the moon. It's been pushed back, I think, to 2026 or so now. But I thought, hey, space, it represents innovation. It represents, change. It represents, the next frontier. And I think insurance is a good, comparison to it. Insurance is constantly changing. We're always exploring new things, going out on the edge of new things. And, to use that whole Starliner example, Boeing Starliner example, I think it's very, very prescient and timely now. Like sometimes innovation doesn't work out, right? Ask Boeing about that. Innovation is hard.
Listen.
Right?
A door that opens itself is a feature. It's not a bug. It's all about your convenience. You need a little bit more fresh air when you're cruising at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, but you would think the leader in aviation would have a really good, lead on space travel.
You would think the legacy company would have a lead, but often they don't. Often it's the startup that can get the job done, and the legacy are stuck with systems that aren't working, right? Maybe that's the insurance analogy with Boeing and SpaceX. I don't know.
And from here we can ask, are we asking NASA to do that? Because as we know, NASA today, they have 2 astronauts who are still stuck. They were supposed to go like, hey, let's go for the weekend in the in the international
space. 3-hour tour, right? 3-hour tour becomes a year-long tour.
Let's fix a few things and we'll be back before you know it. And now they are going to be stuck there until what? Early 2025?
Right. So there are a lot of analogies. Right. Wow. There are a lot of analogies. Like when you have, like if you're an insurance carrier, you're doing innovation, you bring in a startup or what have you, like that's hard. It's still really difficult. NASA's finding that out with Boeing. It's something where, innovation, just because it's hard, just because you might fail, right? Everyone talks about failing fast and whatever. Sometimes you fail, right? But you have to learn from those failures and keep moving forward. You can't just dwell on the failure. Where do we miss something? What are the signs that this might not have worked out well? You constantly have to do that when you're innovating, and I think it's a good analogy for insurance. And heck, we innovate also. That's why I always tell people to kind of pivot to the event. Like, hey, we are.
Wait with that pivot. Wait a second. I was just about to ask about SpaceX, because if we are still running with this analogy, right?
Yeah.
NASA is a government, but let's assume it's a large carrier. Now you have SpaceX, so that's the startup that Drake just kind of alluded to. So they are the ones are they the one who are actually running space now? Or who in the insurance or the InsureTech space is the SpaceX? Well, is there someone?
I mean, SpaceX isn't competing with NASA, right? SpaceX is a partner, and that's something you hear. By the way, I live in Houston. I live in Space City, Houston, Texas. So, and I've always been a Boeing fan, and it's just, you talk about fail fast. They're failing massively and failing in public. I hate to see it. It's a great company, but SpaceX is a partner of NASA. NASA's trying to de-risk, right? They don't want to just be always dependent on government funding. SpaceX was doing it many times cheaper than they could do it. That's just the nature of bureaucracies over time, right? And so they're trying to de-risk their strategy, going with Boeing and SpaceX to help them do some of their launches and things. So, the insurance space isn't always about, I think in the fintech space, sometimes you do hear that, like, we are here to replace you as a bank. We don't need you. We're going to eat your lunch. The InsureTech space, my impression in the short years I've been in it, is a lot more collaborative, right? No, SpaceX isn't trying to replace NASA. They want to work with NASA. They want their money from NASA. And NASA wants SpaceX, right? So it isn't necessarily dog eat dog. It's more actually SpaceX is going to eat Boeing's lunch, right? They put the cost on what
And
they've
that's a
done.
beauty. And that's a beauty. And we can connect that later on to the Agency Connect or Broker Tech and all these guys. Because when we saw the first SpaceXers, the lemonades, and they were like, oh, we don't need agents anymore. Or we're going to conquer the world and we're going to be the next insurance. We're going to get rid of State Farm, the biggest one. But that was, let's call it wave one of the InsureTech. And then there was that ding that, everything is insurance, is collaboration. And you are spot on. You need to collaborate, you need to partner. If I'm not selling the policy, I will provide you the lead. You can sell the policy, or I will be the agent while I'm actually the carrier. There are so many ways to collaborate and partner up in the insurance industry, even between the different, let's say, NASA and the European Space Agency.
Right. Or Soyuz, the Russian space agency, right? Where the NASA's, if SpaceX couldn't get the stranded astronauts back, guess what? They'd have to call the Russians and say, hey, Vladimir, can you do us a solid and bring our guys back? It's and don't forget also Boeing had was the prime contractor. SpaceX came in second, much to Boeing's chagrin.
We can go into politics and ask
Boeing
if it's just because of Elon.
Yeah, right. Right. So it's very interesting. Innovation, that was my whole point. Like, innovation, it's hard, it's tricky, and hats off to all the innovation people, because like Drake was saying, it's not about necessarily like the disruption, just like disruption for the sake of disruption. It has to be a partnership. It has to be working together. You're talking about two different organizations, systems, ways of doing business. You got to bring those together. It's like a marriage, like bringing two families together. You got to bring it together in harmony. It's easy just to say we're going to, take a stick of dynamite and blow things up. It's great marketing talk and all that stuff, but in reality,
I know,
does not work that way at all.
So let's segue back to ITC and all the astronauts, that the AI generated images of astronauts running around with your face and big smiles. How is that? What's the thing? What's going on? A real
astronaut. Yeah, real astronaut too. Yeah.
You're doing. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, just we were inspired by space exploration this year. There's a theme every year, and this year, like Bill was saying, space is about the frontier. It's about possibility. It kind of we think it meshes well with what we're trying to do at ITC, which is just create shock and awe, right? A little bit of overwhelmingness when you walk in there, and then we try to help people manage that overwhelmingness so it doesn't actually create, the panic and anxiety that you have in space, but we try to break it down into smaller pieces. But we were inspired by it. It's a fun theme, right? There's a lot to do with it, and you'll see it on site. Everything is space related this year.
Yeah. And then to build on what Drake was saying, look, we started off with a 1,600 person show and grew to over 9,000 people. And being the world's largest gathering of insurance innovation, people are like, this show is great. Everyone I want to see is here. However, it's hard to navigate, like logistically. It's hard to know exactly where to go, or it's hard to find my flock. So what we're doing this year, one of the things that's really new, is we've segmented the show floor into essentially specific neighborhoods, right? We're calling them curated programs. So we have 4 curated programs. Some have existed in the past, some are new. And the 4 programs are ITC agents, which is new. And Drake can talk about that a little bit more. ITC brokers, which is kind of an extension of what we've done in the past with InsureTech Connect and our partners at InsureTech Ventures, right? ITC LATAM, which we've done in the past. And again, it's a lot of those are focusing on distribution. Insurance is sold. And the last one is life and annuities and group benefits, which is, new. We've done a life and annuities kind of track in the past. But what we're doing on the show floor is you'll see a distinct neighborhood, life and annuities and group benefits. And then near that is the broker neighborhood. And over to the side is the LATAM neighborhood. So people, birds of a feather can flock together. And then on the first day, we're actually doing a lot with agents. And I'll let Drake speak a little bit towards the agents part, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, I think that before we jump into that, first of all, I love that you're using neighborhoods because I'm kind of sick of pavilions. It sounds like, you have a big tent within a big tent within a big hotel. And we already started to see that emerging last year when you started to have these streets of bunching together service providers from the same type. Now, I wasn't sure if was that planned or, they just picked up the boot and it's like, hey, there you go. Because of timing, apparently all the geospatial are in the same place. All the core systems, although those guys usually have a little bit more money to build bigger boots or custom boots. So was the streets, was that already planned?
It was a little bit of serendipity last year. But what we found is, again, people were saying, oh, it's great that, the core systems players are kind of together. The actuarial consultants are together. It's so much easier for the delegates and for the folks who are looking for solutions to be able to go and, shop in one area. Just like when you go shopping, like you're going to look for a suit, all the suits are in one place versus all the, pajamas are in one place. It just makes it so much more efficient for the delegates. And so this year we decided to go all in on that. And we're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a great experience because not only are you going to be able to find the solutions, but a lot of times people are trying to find their flock, right? Trying to find people who are like them to share ideas and talk to, if you're an innovation expert, you want to talk to other innovation experts. If you're a claims specialist, you want to talk to other claims people. And so that organic kind of networking that happens, which we've been, frankly, very good at doing as an event. That's the whole point of the event, right? To bring people together and connect people, which is why we called it InsureTech Connect originally. That's really key to the whole experience. And the more people that can just kind of bump into each other when you're at the coffee bar or you're at the beer garden or whatever, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, we have something in common, it makes the experience that much more rewarding.
Now, from the other side, I think about it, it's like, no, but I'm a business owner. I have a company. I want to be alone. It's like, I don't want to sit next to my competitor. I want to get all the love, all the attention. How do you solve it? I'm sure that there were many different companies that say that something similar to that. How did you overcome that?
Well, they do say that, but they may not mean that. Like, when you go to a mall, the clothing stores, or you have a central entertainment district in your town where all the bars are in one place, or restaurants, right? The fact is, if you make it, you're going to get more traffic if you are with other people who are like you, and there's people with their playbook, like saying, oh, must meet, Salesforce or whatever, and they go there and then they see sales, you're going to get more targeted traffic like that. Is what we think and it's why in malls, things cluster together. It's why you have commercial districts in towns, right? So we think creating neighborhoods is actually good for everybody. And people don't want to be like, why did you put me opposite my competitor? We hate them, that's kind of rare. We don't get too much of that. So
listen, usually when people come up to me, they're still confusing that I'm with ITC. I haven't been with ITC for at least 3 years. I always blame Josh and tell them, talk to Josh. And if it doesn't help, talk to Bill and he will send you to Josh. It has nothing to do with him, but it's always good to say that.
We always blame Josh internally too. So God bless him, Josh.
It's fine.
You guys
indeed, because why? Because he can handle it.
Knows him though now. Yeah.
And the beauty about Josh, he can handle it. He will go like, let me take care of it, and it's like, jokes, and he knows everything comes from a good place.
He's terrific.
Drake, hi, how you doing? It's good to finally meet you face to face, kind of camera to camera.
Camera to camera, yeah.
Okay, we know that you are based in Houston, but what else? Can you tell the audience who knows Bill for so many years? You recently joined the team. What's your responsibility? And then, of course, the different projects that you're working on.
Yeah, well, I've been at ITC for only 2 years. Been at Clarion longer. I've been doing conferences for 17 years now. So I've worked on all sorts of shows and I've done insurance now my second year. So still learning. Certainly don't put myself up there as an expert. But I do know one or two things about kind of creating communities, right? So my job at ITC is to help encourage these programs that we're doing, the brokers, the agents, LATAM, to grow. And really kind of like think about, in the past, as Bill was saying, like we used to just sell tickets and then leave people in the Mandalay Bay and say, okay, good luck, guys, do your meetings. That worked. And when people said like they felt overwhelmed, like they felt, oh, it's too, people would say like, we would ask people like feedback on the show and they go, it's too big. It's too big. And I think as show organizers, we're kind of like, if that's your feedback, then I can live with it's too big because we're trying to sell tickets and sponsor. We were like, the bigger, the better. Actually, what we did this year was take that seriously. When people say it's too big, they meant it. They meant like, I just can't get around the place. I can't find people. There's 60 parties happening in the first 3 days at the Mandalay Bay. It's more than anyone can go to. Like, I'm a little overwhelmed. And if you overwhelm two people too much, they shut down, right? They're like, this thing is too big. I didn't actually do my meetings because like, where do I start? There's 9,500 people in the app, so we took that criticism seriously. So as Bill said, we're making these programs. One of those ITC agents, right? So that's a really good example of this. We've always had independent agents come to the show and they come and they look around and they go, wow, there was not much there for the little guy, the retail agent, on the street selling policies, right? Because they have a different relationship to the industry, to the customer, different relationship with technology, different budgets, different needs, different kind of schedule, different cost benefit analysis about whether I even spend $4,000 for my hotel and flights and ticket and then 5 days out of the office. Difficult for them to do, right? So we wanted to make something that was especially addressed the needs of the independent retail agent on the street. And we did that this year. And so it's got a different price point. The product we came up with is called ITC Agents. And so Tuesday is a full day of content where you meet other successful agency owners. It's kind of like how I built this. Like, I built an agency of 100 million people in 5 years. We brought successful agency owners, experts, technology experts, and we're going to give people 15-minute sessions, takeaways, things you can take away and implement like on the proverbial Monday after the show, right? Like, okay. And with that ticket to ITC Agents, it's actually its own expo as well. You get to come to Vegas as well. So you leave on Wednesday afternoon when Agents finishes, and then you can walk into that show floor with your roadmap and say, okay, well now which of these 700 exhibitors do I need to connect with? So that's the idea behind it. It was actually kind of the last piece of ITC is a full ecosystem event these days. As Bill said, it starts off life 8 years ago with just investors in InsureTech. And it's been a while since we've just been that. We didn't even call ourselves InsureTech Connect anymore. It's a whole ecosystem event, carriers, brokers, technology vendors, investors, and now it's for agents as well.
Yeah, and we were talking about providing value because, sorry, let me rephrase that. The conversation was about the different meetups and all the different satellites events. So while you are talking about the main, let's call it the main galaxies, now it's basically too big. Let's take a solar system, right? While InsureTech Connect is the sun, you have now a few more planets. You talk about InsureTech LATAM. You talk about adding to the main event InsureTech. What is it? Broker.
ITC Brokers.
ITC Brokers. That's official name?
That's for the larger brokers, right?
Oh.
That's where you find Hub and Acrisure and Lockton and people like that.
And for the small ones?
And the retail one, kind of ITC agents, independent agents.
ITC agents, okay. Mm-hmm. And everything is going to be the same time or the same week in Mandalay Bay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So you have those different planets and moons. And then, of course, you have other big conferences that we're going to go into later from Japan, Asia. London is a new one, LATAM, all over the place. Sorry, which one did I miss?
Europe, right?
Yes, right, DIA. I don't know. I still consider DIA as a separate entity because they manage kind of to keep that vibe. Although I haven't been to the one in Amsterdam this year. I didn't have the time. It's too many conferences, but that's a different feedback that I'm sure that you heard once or twice. It's the same problem. It's like, oh my God, it's too big. It's like too many conferences. And
Lots of
great.
management.
It's how to manage, how to budget from sponsors and ticket buyers. So that's a different question that I'm not sure that we want to tackle on this episode.
Yeah, I'll address it real quick. ITC Vegas is the flagship, right? And the other thing, it's a hub and spoke model, right? So if you are in Japan, let's say, right, different set of regulations, different set of needs. It makes a lot of sense to have something in Japan, in Asia writ large, in Europe, because of course folks are going to often deal with vendors, with regulations, with carriers on a more micro level, and then they're still looking to come to Vegas from the macro, big picture. We've got the biggest show, we've got a different level of amenities. Frankly, from our great kickoff party to our closing party with Boys to Men. We have this great headline act every year, so we're thrilled about Boys to Men coming to close up the show this year. It's just a different. It's just at a different level in Vegas, but we still are really thrilled about all the local, more micro community engagement that happens. So it's kind of a both and. Like, not everyone's going to be able to go to Vegas, and not everyone's going to go to necessarily a smaller show. It depends on what your needs are. Some folks are like, hey, I need to really be on a big stage. I'm just starting out, let's say. I need to be on the biggest stage possible and get my brand and my product and my service known to as many people as possible. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I want to go a little bit more, a little bit more surgical, and I'm going to go to a smaller event. So we feel like we have, a lot of the bases covered from that perspective. So it's been a really interesting part of the strategy since, when Jay and Caribou and I kind of Caribou came up with the original idea, and then my job has really been to grow that initial kernel that Caribou planted with Jay, and see the growth trajectory over the last 8 years. This is our 9th edition of ITC coming up. It's been amazing to see this.
Yeah,
really
no,
great.
Listen, it's remarkable, and because we are talking space and everything, I'm going to jump back to my example, my awkward example here, with all the planets and solar systems and the moons, which is basic and kind of tying it to what Drake started to mention. You actually gave an example that first day there are 60 parties, right? Each one, all kind of companies and VCs and businesses are like, okay, we're going to have our party, our pre-party, drinks, happy hours, gathering people, having fun, and basically that's when we're actually doing business because it's a very relationship heavy industry. And then you have other kind of satellite unofficial events. And recently what you mentioned to me was, we're going to do these meetups and we're going to help that happen because there is amount of stages that ITC has. But if you want to have a meetup that will provide more content and value to the audience, let's see how we can do that as well. So within all of these types of asteroids and moons or satellites, how do you support them? What is the goal? How do you help them, and what should we expect?
Well,
I know it's a lot.
I'm gonna keep going with this metaphor. Isn't it such a rich, like well to draw from, this metaphor of space, right? It works so many ways. So the sun, if you have, ITC is in a fortunate position, right, to have a center of gravity that's so big that the things start to orbit around it, and we don't even organize a lot of those, right? So the 60 parties that happen that week, we don't organize them, right? That's companies coming to us and they're doing a wine tasting here, they've got some guest speaker here, whatever. They're all happening around us, because if you have that center of gravity, you're going to attract the celestial bodies that will start orbiting around you. How was that for the metaphor?
That's good.
Awesome.
Anyway,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, great. So the meetups, we have these like town centers, right? That I think Bill said, like these neighborhoods, the LNA, LATAM brokers got these town centers on the show floor, and we're doing meetups. But a lot of the time, the meetups are organized by other people we know, people we trust, But they're like, hey, I want the LATAM people to meet Broker Tech Ventures, right? So that's happening. So we're just 1 p.m. on Wednesday. We'll put it in the agenda. And then there'll be a group of people from LATAM go over to meet the guys from the brokers, right? So, it's all about connections. That's what we are, ITC, InsureTech Connect. But the satellites, the things happening around, like it's a big part. You won't see it if you look at the website and you've never been to ITC. That the amount of stuff that happens around the event is as big as the stuff that we organize. And that's because our partners do it and we help them do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
this is where, sorry, go ahead.
Just in terms of like helping people, digest the show and what have you. Like we've got stuff like the first timers orientation that's coming up. We're going to do a webinar first, and then at the show, we actually have a gathering, walk the first timers through kind of what to expect at the show. Bring comfortable shoes. I don't care if you're a first timer or ninth timer. Bring comfortable shoes.
Yes.
We always tell people that.
Yes, that's tip number one.
Our partner at Viewpoint Ventures, he's going to do an AI kind of primer, again, a webinar, and then he'll also be on the main stage giving everyone kind of a level set on AI. One of our main stage speakers, Zach Cass, was formerly head of go-to-market at OpenAI. We've been talking about space. Our other speaker, which we've alluded to, but we haven't talked about really, is Captain Scott Kelly, retired NASA astronaut, brother of Mark Kelly, Gabby Gifford's husband, who is a senator, right? He went to the space station for a very long time, came back, and they compared him to his identical twin brother. So he's going to be talking about, being in space and risk management from that perspective. But, back to, we try to help people, again, connect and prepare. We have a bunch of affinity kind of group meetings. Like I've been running the Black Founders meetup because I've noticed, hey, there's a lot of folks who are kind of atypical to what folks have seen as tech founders who are doing really well. And we've grown that event. This is going to be the third year. We've grown that event. We've got the Women's Leadership Forum as well. Again, the first timers experience. So we've got a lot of things that are happening that we try to, just help people kind of get a grip on all the stuff and how to best utilize your time at ITC, which always starts in the app, setting up meetings, connecting with people. I always tell people, try to fill your dance card before you get to ITC. Leave some blank spaces because there's always serendipitous, people you're going to meet and you're going to want to have some free time. But, the people that get the most out of the event plan their time in advance. They use the app to connect. They come in with an objective and a purpose, and we help people navigate all that. There's a lot. It's like going to Disney World. You wouldn't just walk into Disney World and say, okay, I just spent X dollars to bring my family to Disney World, and I don't know what I'm going to do. You got to figure it out.
You need
first.
to have a plan. You need a plan. You need to be this high and to have a plan. Yeah.
Or if you're like me, it's a very precise plan. It's like run to the end of the park and do the most popular roller coaster first, and then you figure out the whole thing.
Work your way backwards, right? You gotta have a plan.
My plan: avoid at any cost. But that's my plan about Disney World. It's a tip. But in terms of the orientation, it's something that started last year, and I remember that I saw the line. I was like, "What's going on?" Because you had hundreds of people.
Like 400 or 500 people. Yeah.
Yeah. Hundreds of people. I didn't count them, but it looked more than 12, right? And way more than 100. And just following after someone with a flag. And I was like, is that an organized tool? What's going on? It's like, no. It's an orientation to newbies. And I'm like, holy, it's still growing. It still has a potential. What was it here 8, and it's still growing in new people. At the same time, I was talking to folks like, yeah, we are not sure. This year is a little bit difficult because of XYZ. So from the carriers, they had to reduce the number of their delegation. But at the same time, it was the largest, and this year expected to be even larger than last year. So it's remarkable. It's amazing.
Thank you. And again, it's the carriers come in force. We're seeing a lot of technical people, CIOs, CTOs. People want to discover the new technology. They want to meet the partners that have a lot of different solutions. They want to meet the startups that have these new innovations. They want to meet, hey, look, in this remote kind of hybrid world, a lot of times people are trying to meet the people that they work with.
I know. Yeah.
Last time I saw Drake was in January or so. Like, Drake and I only see each other, twice a year. We work very closely together. We only lay eyes on each other face to face a couple of times. So, having these conferences, having these events are key to, just your own team building and building relationships face to face with your partners and your other colleagues and your prospects. It's also a great way to network personally. If you're hiring for jobs, if you're looking for a job, there's really no better place in this industry than ITC if you're networking and looking to, increase your own personal brand.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great point, because it's not just your company business, it's your personal business.
Right.
Don't just promote company XYZ, if you're an employee or an executive in company XYZ, you should most definitely promote that one. At the same time, if you just left company XYZ, it's a great opportunity to promote you. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Drake, I know we talked a little bit about the agents. Let's talk a little bit more about LATAM and future conferences that are coming up. I know Vegas is big. It's the biggest one. But there are, as we said, other planets.
Other planets. Well, we had a planet last year in April in Miami. It was ITC LATAM. We did it in Miami. It was kind of our launch. We've always had LATAM people come, right? Last year, an actual big conference in Miami. 900 people were there. What we decided was we would rather fold that up into ITC Vegas.
Oh.
And that's what we did this year. So we don't have any plans to go back to Miami and do a whole show. We use that as kind of our beachhead, right, to make good inroads. I actually spent 8 weeks traveling around the whole continent, just meeting as many people as I could. And now we have that.
Wait. Let me just get it right. So you went to Latin America with a backpack or a suitcase.
Young person's rail car, hiking,
a mochila or a maleta, and you just, let me see if maybe on this amazing beach in Galinha de whatever, or Porto Seguro, is there someone who is doing also insurance? Is that more or less, is that, or something a little bit more?
Look, like I said, I don't think they cared or knew or cared who I was in particular. It was only that I worked for ITC that they gave me the time of day, right? And I didn't take any. I've only been, like I said, just got here 2 years ago. I don't take any credit for that, but it opens doors. And like I said, we've always had a lot of people from LATAM coming, so it was kind of easy. And we've got a great crowd. There's 300 people at least registered already, and we're going to get more by the time we get to October. And again, it's a different market. They're at a different stage. They're ahead in some areas, they're behind in some areas. They have just different people who can invest in that. Mm-hmm. So we bring them together. I do the conference that we do now is it's a 1-day content show. It's on Tuesday as well, on the 15th, kind of before Wednesday, Thursday Expo. It is in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. It's translated simultaneously. And we bring everyone together. We're actually one of the few people who does Brazil and Spanish speaking Latin America, right? Most tend to be one or the other. And it's not for any kind of political reason. It's just a cultural thing. It's a business thing. It's very circumscribed, but which we bring them together, right? Because we think everyone can learn from everyone. So we've got a full day LATAM program on Tuesday, and we've got our own zone, got our own happy hour, and we got a soccer penalty shootout competition this year.
Football.
Go.
No, that's smart. That's smart. That can actually create havoc if you're going to have a panel about football. But yeah, no, if someone is taking that seriously, thank God. It's been a few weeks since the Copa America. Yeah. No,
bring a strong boot.
Yeah.
Bring a strong boot, man. It's that.
Well, we got about 100 Brazilians.
It's hard. It's hard. It's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be
Drake
amazing.
To, like, turn the lever to make it a little bit easier. I need it a little bit more like Pee Wee League versus World Cup.
That's right.
I want to see some goals scored.
Yeah, I can see the Argentinian on one side. You'll have the Brazilian there, and then that's it. We are ready for war.
Maybe like people watching with setting off those flares and like throwing things on the pitch. Yeah, we're going to try to recreate that.
That's more British, but yeah, that actually no, it's international. Love the politics of football or soccer, and we didn't even mention Qatar. Awesome, great, wonderful. This is the time for me to kind of plug in my meetup about company valuation and what we are trying to help startups and agencies as they are looking for what's the value of my agency, how do I sell it, and all the things like that. What should I expect given the current economy, when the economy will improve, and this is where I go like, I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea. No one tell. And if someone will tell you, check for the small print and all the asterisks on disclaimers, because they cannot promise you anything. Historical information cannot predict future. So part of ITC, as we talked, we have the main stage, the many other stages. There are going to be neighborhoods, there are going to be meetups, there are going to be other conferences as part of the main conference. It is going to be wild. So let's talk about basic tips. You already mentioned a few of them. So personally, for the past so many years, I landed on Monday and left on Friday. And I learned my lesson to make sure that I have comfortable shoes, because I usually do 20 to 30,000 steps. Bill, what else people should know about walking the expo hall, meetings? What should they bring? How should they hydrate and network?
Yeah. And to the point about steps, Optimity, who's been a long-term sponsor of ours, is going to do a step challenge. So if you're pushing 30,000 steps, you might win. And there will be some great prizes from that. If you forget something, we also have Overalls is going to have an on-site kind of concierge experience in the life, annuity, and group benefits area. So, for example, if you forgot to
vitamin drips,
an article of clothing or something like that, and you're like, wow, I didn't expect it to be this cold inside in Vegas. I thought I was going to a desert. I need a blazer or something like that. They will work with you to make that happen. They'll send a concierge to get you, fill in the blank. If you're looking to get into the sphere or something like that, go see them. So we're going to have these life concierges from Overalls there on site as well. So we're really excited about that.
Again, so let's start with the basics. Is the app live already, or it's supposed to be go live?
It is live. It's live for sponsors. We give the sponsors a little bit of a head start. Next week, it will go live to everyone else. So the sponsors are getting in there. They're populating their profiles and all that good stuff, so that when we release it, probably by this time next week, late next week, it'll be live to all the registrants. So it's coming.
Number one, make sure to download the application and start networking. You will be amazed. I'm sure it's not the first time that you've been at ITC. If you're an audience, maybe as a broker or an agent, it's the first time, or someone from the reinsurance or the financial world going like, oh shit, yeah, I need to be there. Download the app, start managing your time. Super critical because those calendars fill up quickly. Yes. What else should people know about, comfortable shoes and other stuff?
Yeah, there's just a lot going on. Like Drake said, like be open to all the other experiences. We'll also update our website with some of those experiences, the 60 or so experiences that Drake mentioned, happy hours, receptions, dinners, you name it. So, check our agenda. We also recommend that you go into the app and kind of, set out your agenda as to which sessions. We have 14 stages that we're operating this year.
Wow.
Right? 14 stages. The content stage is upstairs on the second floor. We have a stage. We have the life annuity group benefits stage. We have the demo stage on the expo floor. We're going to have the State Farm pitch competition, startup pitch competition once again this year. We've got 10 finalists in that, which is early on. It's on Tuesday afternoon, and then the winner presents on the main stage on Thursday. So that's going to be really exciting. But you want to make sure that you get your the main stage content. Make sure you sign up for that. Make sure you sign up for and add that to your agenda, because when people are then going to start hitting you up for, hey, I want to meet you. If you want to go to a session at 10:30 in the morning, you're going to have that conflict. So take a look at the agenda. Essentially add that to your app. Add it to your schedule via the app to make sure that you want to block out that time for meetings. There's just so much. Drake, what else did I?
Then block out some time to do nothing, right? Block out some time to walk through the expo and get the beta wave in your brain working, as opposed to the hyper-focused, meeting kind of brain waves. And then look around and see what's happening. You can learn a lot by seeing where's their traction. What's cool. Where are people congregating? Why has everybody got AI at the end of their company this year and they didn't last year? You learn stuff by walking through the expo, and then give yourself some time to do that and visit the champagne walls and kick on the soccer penalty thing and go pet a puppy in the puppy lounge. There's fun stuff to do. Put in 3 hours where you don't have anything to do except daydream and be with your thoughts and walk around and see what you see.
And by the way, the most important part, be open to serendipity and meetings. You never know. It's just the guy that you stand in line for the espresso. Please tell me that there is an espresso bar. That's for me.
Sure. We'll have coffee bar. Yeah. A few of them. Yes, absolutely.
Even better. So, going back to that, if you be open to the chat with the person who is in front of you or behind you in the espresso bar, in the line to the espresso bar, or while you're waiting to pet a puppy, because those meetings, those serendipity, unplanned meetings, they are the best. You never know who is the person that you're talking, because you find him on the app, you didn't find him on the app, it's just random. That's part of the beauty of InsureTech Connect.
That's it. It only happens in an in-person meeting, right? You can't have a serendipitous Zoom call or a serendipitous podcast, as much as podcasts are great and I love them. But that's the beauty of an in-person event. You don't know who you're going to meet.
Exactly.
We're going to make it a little bit easier on the badges. We're going to have a little something extra on the badges this year, which I'll just hint to, a little foreshadowing, to make it easier to kind of manage those serendipitous meetings, to make that connection.
Are we doing Are we doing Bluetooth, near field, or just QR codes?
We'll have the QR code again, so you can connect with people. But we'll also give you essentially a prompt to ask someone about, maybe an aspect of their life that won't be evident from the name, the title, the company that they're with.
So you're going to give them some sort of a social hook, something to open up a conversation, which is a little bit more than, so which company, what's your title? That's what we're going to talk about. Where are you from? Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Oh, Los Angeles. Oh, the 405, the 101. Yeah. You don't know how many times I need to hear the Californian sketch from SNL, which is hilarious, but still a little bit too much. Yeah. But again, wonderful. And with this super optimistic, energetic, pick of the conversation, it's time for us to finish, because we've been blubbering for like 45 minutes at least. And after I'm going to edit myself from this, so it will be even less. Any final words that people should know about this year that you think that we forgot to mention?
One thing you forgot to mention, we do have a special, if you haven't yet registered, we do have a special discount code for listeners of this podcast. So if you go to InsureTech Connect, vegas.insuretechconnect.com, and click on the register button, the promo code is 200 ITC 701. 200 ITC 701 gets you $200 off your registration. So, especially for listeners of this pod.
Or watchers. Watchers. You'll see a link. You'll see a link in the comments or the bio or whatever the different social media channel. This full episode and the different clips will pop up. Wonderful. Bill, Drake, was an honor. Was a lot of fun. Can't wait to see you in October. And we will need to chat to understand better where people can find the meetup that we've been working on. At the end of the day, it will be a bunch of guys drinking coffee, talking about, yeah, man, you cannot sell your company for 10x. You're an insurance company. You're an agency. 3x for the revenue at the best. But there is more than that. Bye, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Let me stop.